You ever have one of those days where the universe just looks you dead in the eye and dares you to blink first? Yeah, that was me standing in 3 feet of fresh snow wind, howling face to face with the HOA president, Veronica Sterling, while my wife Rosalind, barely able to breathe, watched helplessly from the window. You'd think in a blizzard with the oxygen delivery canceled and our walkway slicker than an oil spill, the neighborhood queen bee would show a little compassion. Nope. All she could scream, voice shrill enough to make the icicles rattle, was, "Turn off that heated walkway right now, or I'm calling the cops." She had no clue who she was dealing with. I'm Garrett Finch, retired municipal water engineer, 35 years in the trenches, and let me tell you, from the day we moved into Willowbrook Estates, something about this perfect place always itched under my skin. Maybe it was that clipboard smile Veronica wore when she welcomed us, already plotting to wreck our peace. Or maybe it was the way she glared at our moving truck like it was smuggling contraband instead of medical equipment. Truth was, we didn't move here for the ambiance. We moved because Rosalind needed air flat ground and a fighting chance. First winter. Nearly killed her. December ice storm. She slipped, lay gasping outside until Mrs. Patterson found her. Doctor said 10 more minutes, and I'd be a widower. That's when I did what engineers do, solved a problem. Spent $8,000 on a heated walkway system, county permits, fire department approval, the whole 9 yards. For 2 years it ran like a dream. Snow hit concrete, stayed warm. Rosalind could fetch the mail, breathe live. Then Veronica decided to run the HOA like her personal fiefdom. Picture a Karen with a law degree, a husband on the city planning committee, and the aesthetic taste of a tax auditor. Her mission: restore property values by crushing anyone who didn't genuflect. To her vision, first target, sweet old Mr. Kowalski. Hit him with a $2 $400 fine for feeding birds. Because apparently happy birds lower property values. But that's the thing about bullies, they eventually pick on someone who bites back. Turns out Kowalski's son works for the county water department, and over coffee one day he mentioned something weird: houses on Sterling Street using way less water than anyone else. File that away. Then Veronica came for us. Held an emergency board meeting. Really just her and 2 wine mom cronies. Declared my heated walkway an unauthorized modification. I laid out every permit in front of her like a royal flush. She didn't care. County permits don't override our standards, she sneered, tapping her nails like a woodpecker on Red Bull. Next week, new bylaws always aimed at the elderly, disabled, or anyone too tired to fight. But here's the dirty little secret about engineers: we notice patterns. Inconsistent water pressure, softer water here, strange consumption there. The more I looked, the more Willowbrook's infrastructure seemed off. That's when Veronica brought her nephew Derek, the HOA compliance coordinator, to document our so-called violation. Poor kid was all nerves and acne, snapping photos of everything, even tried peeking in our windows till I blocked him. Irony was, as Veronica lectured about community standards, she was literally standing on my warm walkway, soaking up the heat she wanted destroyed. 4 days, she said, or she'd file a lien. So I did what anyone with a backbone and a wife who'd almost died would do, called Marlene Vasquez, disability attorney and certified bulldog. She spotted the game instantly. Classic selective enforcement, she said, targeting the vulnerable. Turns out fair housing laws don't just care about the rules, they care about who gets hammered by them. The pattern was clear. Veronica wrote bylaws targeting anyone she didn't like, then looked the other way when her friends broke the same ones. And then Marlene found the gold record showing Veronica's husband, good old Baxter, leaked permit info to her before it was public, letting her write targeted rules before residents even finished their applications. And the cherry: the Sterlings had greenlit their own renovations, hot tub, outdoor kitchen, you name it, without a whiff of HOA review. Rules for thee, not for me. But here's where things started to twist. See, Derek, while documenting my dangerous walkway, forgot to turn off his phone recording. That night I hear him on tape muttering, "She's insane." Measured my grass with a ruler. Even her own family was cracking. I started wondering what else was hiding behind those pretty stone facades. Veronica's panic showed in all the best ways. Called an emergency HOA meeting, only gave 24 hours notice. Though the rules required 72, packed the room with her loyalists, dished out burnt coffee, and launched into a PowerPoint on the dangers of heated walkways. But when Mrs. Patterson piped up, "Didn't you install an unauthorized hot tub last year?" Veronica fumbled, made excuses, and pressed on. The hypocrisy was thick enough to skate on. During the break, I dug into city water records. That street, Sterling Street, used 40% less water than any other. Not conservation, not luck. No, this was old farmland and old farms have wells. What if those wells weren't properly decommissioned? What if certain residents had tapped into free agricultural water while the rest of us paid city rates? A stroll through their backyards, and there it was, decorative manhole covers lined up exactly over the mapped well locations. Someone had built an underground system piping free, untreated water into 8 homes, including, naturally, the Sterlings. Now, farm wells aren't just a little dirty, they're toxic soup. Pesticides, nitrates, bacteria, stuff that'll make your insides rot if you drink it long enough. I called an old friend at the environmental agency. He nearly dropped the phone when I described what I'd found. "That's federal prison time," he said. "Not just fines, not just slaps on the wrist." I took water samples, brought them to the state lab. Dr. Sarah Kim, old municipal colleague, looked at the results and just shook her head. Nitrate levels triple the safe limit, pesticide residues, bacteria galore. This wasn't just illegal. It was a slow-motion poisoning of every vulnerable person on that street. Suddenly, the mysterious stomach problems, the learning disabilities, the infections, it all clicked. Sterling's war on standards was killing people. Veronica, meanwhile, was unraveling. She sent a private investigator in a suit so cheap it squeaked, hired security guards to protect the neighborhood, read. Intimidate anyone asking questions, even tried to bribe me, first 30 grand, then 75, then $100,000 to drop my complaint and disappear. Each offer more desperate than the last. But by then the feds were circling. My lawyer Vasquez built a dream team with an environmental law shark and a forensic engineer. We mapped every illegal pipe, traced every connection, tracked every dollar. Sterling's own nephew Derek flipped, testified against her in exchange for immunity. Sterling tried to have day laborers cut the power to my walkway. She threatened board members, bribed others, collapsed completely when her own sister Derek's mom turned witness to save her son. The night of the big meeting, the community center was packed. Sterling strutted in thinking she'd win one more time. Instead, she faced federal investigators, a lab director with proof of mass poisoning, neighbors ready to riot, and prosecutors with a pile of evidence a mile high. She tried to adjourn. "This meeting is over," but the only thing over was her freedom. Out came the handcuffs, and Sterling was led away, mascara running, as 89 neighbors watched karma collect its debt. 6 months later, our walkway still works perfectly, melting the snow while Rosalind tends her plants with lungs that finally breathe easy. Sterling got 12 years. Baxter 15. The cleanup cost over $1 million, but every affected family got care compensation and the knowledge that the bully was gone for good. The HOA, new board, new rules, new sense of community. We have monthly cookouts, a scholarship for students studying environmental science, and my favorite, a support group for victims of HOA tyranny. What did I learn? Sometimes evil wears a power suit and calls itself community. Sometimes the system is so rigged you think you can't win. But truth is, a little know-how and a lot of stubbornness can bring the house of cards down, especially when the queen starts poisoning her own kingdom. And here's the kicker, the thing that still makes me shake my head. All I wanted was for my wife to walk outside in winter without fearing for her life. Instead, I found out just how rotten power can get when nobody pushes back. So tell me, what's the worst HOA power trip you've seen? Where's the line between protecting a neighborhood and protecting your own little empire? Drop your story below, or your take on justice, revenge, or the cost of fighting back. Because in Willowbrook we learned the hard way sometimes. Justice is slow, but when it finally hits, it's ice cold and oh so sweet.